Diners drove in and out of Marigold Restaurant, the city's pride. Inside, soft clinks of silverware and quiet laughter danced through the air. The scent of grilled chicken and freshly baked bread filled the room. Polished tiles reflected chandeliers that sparkled like afternoon sun. At a corner table near the glass wall, Megan sat alone. 37, elegant, calm, with skin that glowed like rich mahogany. Her table was full, golden potato chips, grilled chicken resting in spicy sauce, coconut rice steaming softly, a basket of bread rolls, and a tall glass of red wine. But Megan wasn't eating. Her eyes stayed glued to her phone, fingers tapping, lips barely moving as she answered calls with grace. Outside the gate, Ephraim stood barefoot on the hot pavement. His stomach growled so loudly it almost startled him. He hadn't eaten in 4 days, not even a grain of rice. He stared at the restaurant with big, tired eyes. Waiters moved swiftly, clearing plates before leftover crumbs could settle. Ephraim licked his cracked lips. If only I could get a small plate, he thought. His gaze fell on Megan, her food untouched, her attention buried in her phone. His chest rose and fell as he considered it, but fear gripped him. "This place is not for people like me," he whispered to himself. "They will throw me out before I even step in." He turned away, then stopped. Hunger twisted in his belly again. Stronger, meaner. "What's the worst that can happen?" he muttered. A horn blared. The gate swung open for a car to leave. Ephraim didn't think twice. He dashed in. "Hey!" one of the guards shouted. Ephraim didn't stop. He ran straight to Megan's table, his voice trembling. "Please, Ma, can I eat with you?" Gasps filled the room. Conversations died mid-sentence. A waiter rushed at him and grabbed his arm roughly. "Out!" the man barked. "Get out now!" Ephraim resisted. "Please, Ma, please. I haven't eaten for 4 days. Just a piece. Anything." Megan finally looked up. All eyes turned to her. "Where did he come from?" someone whispered. "This place isn't safe again," another muttered. A woman in pearls shook her head. "This is not how things are done. You can't just allow anyone to walk in like this." But Megan kept watching the boy. He was thin, his ribs pressing through his dirty shirt. His feet were black from walking. His hair was dusty, tangled, and dry. The waiter tightened his grip on the boy's arm, but Megan raised a hand. "Stop!" The waiter froze. "Ma?" "I said wait. Let him go." The murmurs grew louder. "She's encouraging nonsense," someone said, but Megan ignored them. "What's your name?" she asked softly. The boy bowed his head. "Ephraim, Ma." "Sit down, Ephraim." His eyes lifted slowly, unsure. "Ma," he asked again, voice barely there. "You're hungry, right?" He nodded. "Then sit down." Megan glanced at the waiter still standing stiff beside her table, his eyes wide with confusion. Calmly, she said, "Get him a warm glass of milk first, then a plate of rice, bread rolls, chicken. Just bring what a kid would like." The waiter blinked, nodded quickly, and hurried off. All around the room, the murmuring rose again like restless wind. Eyes flicked toward Megan's table, forks paused mid-air, voices whispering behind napkins. But Megan didn't look at anyone. Her gaze stayed on the boy now seated quietly before her. He looked overwhelmed, as if he still wasn't sure if it was real. Then he whispered, "Thank you, Ma. God bless you, Ma. I didn't think you would notice me. I just took my chances." His voice broke a little. "No one has helped me since. They all chased me away." Megan's chest tightened. She swallowed hard. The emotion pushed up her throat, but she held it back and simply nodded, offering a small, warm smile. Just then the waiter returned with a tall glass of warm milk on a tray. He set it gently before the boy. "Drink," Megan encouraged, her voice soft. Ephraim reached out with trembling hands. He lifted the glass and drank fast, too fast, gulping like someone lost in a desert. The glass was empty in seconds. Gasps rose from nearby tables. "No table manners," one woman muttered. "I'm embarrassed just watching this," another said with a shake of her head. But Megan didn't seem to hear them, or maybe she did and chose not to care. Moments later, the waiter brought in the food, a full plate of steaming rice, golden bread rolls, a thick piece of grilled chicken, and a small dish of tomato sauce. Ephraim picked up one bread roll. He took a bite and his eyes lit up, wide with surprise and delight. He bit again, faster now, hungry. Megan chuckled lightly. "Eat slowly, so you don't choke." He nodded, mouth full, but couldn't stop. His hands were shaking, then his body too. His shoulders trembled as he chewed. Slowly, he dropped the bread roll back on the plate, stood up, and knelt beside Megan. Everyone turned. Silence fell. Ephraim burst into tears. "God bless you, Ma. Thank you, Ma. Thank you," he repeated over and over. Megan stared at him, stunned, her eyes filled with tears. She pulled out a small handkerchief from her bag and dabbed her eyes gently, breathing in and out to steady herself. The restaurant had gone quiet now. Not a single voice, not even the clink of a fork. And then, slowly, Megan stood. She reached out, helped Ephraim up, and pulled him into a hug, right there in front of everyone. His clothes were dirty, his skin covered in dust. But she didn't mind. "It's okay," she whispered, holding him close. They sat down again, Megan and the boy whose name was Ephraim. Megan watched him eat, her heart heavy. He chewed slower now, like the food was comforting him, not just filling his stomach. She folded her hands on the table and asked gently, "How did you end up on the streets?" Ephraim wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. He looked down at the plate, then up at her. "My mother and I lived in a small house," he began, voice quiet. "She owned a small provision store. That's what she used to send me to school and to pay our house rent." Megan nodded, encouraging him to go on. "One Saturday," Ephraim continued, "we went to the shop and found it empty. Everything was gone. Thieves had broken in and stolen everything." Megan's fingers tightened around her wine glass. "My mother cried that day. That was when things got hard. There was no money to start the shop again. Our landlord, he was patient at first. I think he liked my mother, but my mother didn't like him." Ephraim paused, his voice turning shaky. After a while, he started shouting at her. He would say things like, "A beggar has no choice." One day, he threw us out. He looked up at Megan. "We had nowhere to go. We carried our bag and started walking. We slept anywhere we could find." Then came a longer pause. His voice dropped. "One night, 2 men came. They wanted to take our bag. My mother told them to leave us alone. She fought them." He stopped again, looking away. His small fingers gripped the edge of the table tightly. "They stabbed her," he said, almost in a whisper. "They ran away with the bag." Megan covered her mouth. Her eyes were already glistening. "I cried," Ephraim went on. "I shouted for help, but no one came. Nobody helped us. In the morning I tried to wake her, but she didn't move. She just lay there." He sniffed. His eyes were wet, but no tears rolled yet. "I covered her with some dirty bags. I told her I was coming back with help. I walked far, asking people, but nobody listened. When I came back," he swallowed hard. "She was no longer there. A garbage truck had passed through. They packed her away with the dirt." Gasps filled the restaurant. A woman near the window covered her face with both hands. A man by the bar looked away, blinking fast. "I never knew my father," Ephraim added quietly. "That was how I started living on the streets." Silence took over the room again. Even the spoons stayed still. People who had heard his story were now dabbing their eyes. A waiter wiped his face with a napkin before turning away. The manager stood at the corner, head bowed. Megan reached for her napkin too. Her eyes were filled with tears. Megan rose from her seat. The restaurant was still quiet, the weight of Ephraim's story hanging heavy in the air. All eyes were on her. She looked around the room slowly, her gaze touching every table, every face. Then she spoke. "Most of us come here every day to eat," she said gently but firmly. "We order food we can't finish. We leave them on the table after a bite or two." She paused. Her voice grew stronger. These meals are thrown into the trash. And yet, outside these walls are children like Ephraim, who have nothing, absolutely nothing, to eat. No one moved. Forks stayed frozen mid-air. A woman near the back lowered her eyes. "We don't see them as humans anymore," Megan continued. "We call them nuisance. We hiss. We wave them away like flies. But all they want, just one thing, is a little act of kindness." A murmur rose somewhere in the room, but faded as she pressed on. "See how quick we were to judge him," she said. "His dirty clothes, his rough hair, his bare feet." We shook our heads and whispered, yet no one cared to know his story. No one stopped to ask why. She turned slightly, her eyes scanning again. "We say the country is not safe. We talk about insecurity, crime, violence. But when children like Ephraim cry out for help and we ignore them, what do we expect?" Heads were nodding slowly now. "We complain about a society filled with menace, but we are the same people allowing it to grow. When children are abandoned, someone else finds them, someone with dangerous plans. They give them what we refused: attention, care, a place to belong." She paused, her voice low and calm. "And in return, these children become weapons, not because they wanted to, but because we pushed them into the arms of people who did." A deep silence settled again. Even the kitchen staff had come out to listen. "The change we cry for," Megan said, "should begin with us, the ones who are still sane, still seated here in peace." She looked at them one by one. "We can make this place better, our society, our streets, if we stop turning blind eyes, if we stop judging before listening, if we show a little kindness to the ones we ignore every day." She pointed gently to the table. "The cost of one meal here can feed a child like Ephraim, just one plate. That's what it means to have abundance, not just to spend, but to give." Megan's voice dropped a little, softer now. "Some of us had a hard beginning too. We've just forgotten what it felt like to be at the bottom, but we can do better, we must do better." She sat down quietly, and the room erupted. Applause thundered from every corner. Chairs shifted as people stood, clapping, some wiping tears from their eyes. One by one, they came to her table. A woman in high heels whispered, "I'm sorry for judging him." A man placed a few folded dollar notes on the table in front of Ephraim. "God bless you, my boy," he said. Another dropped more cash with shaking hands. "Please use this for him." They didn't just give money. They gave kind words too. They looked at Ephraim differently now, no longer like he was a stain on their clean world, but like a person, a real person. Ephraim finished the last bite of his chicken and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. He looked up at Megan with wonder in his eyes. "You are very kind and beautiful, Ma," he said. "Thank you." Megan looked at him. His voice was soft, but his words were full of truth. There was a glow in his eyes now, small but alive. Innocence wrapped around his face like sunlight after rain. She smiled gently. "Thank you," she replied, "because you've reminded everyone in this room that every life matters, even people like you." Then she leaned in slightly, her voice steady. "And you won't be homeless again." Ephraim blinked. "Really?" he asked. Megan nodded. "Yes. I will take you home with me. You will have a warm bed, you'll eat good food, and you'll go to school like every other child." Before she could finish, Ephraim jumped up and wrapped his small arms around her. His body pressed against her tightly, his head resting on her chest. Megan hugged him back, tears burning behind her eyes. She paid for their meal, stood up, and took his hand. Together, they walked out of the restaurant. Outside, the air was cool. A sleek black car waited at the curb. Ephraim gasped. "Is this your car?" he asked, eyes wide. "Yes," Megan said, smiling as she opened the door for him. "You have lots of money," he said with awe as she helped him into the car. Megan chuckled and slid into the driver's seat. "Money means nothing," she said gently, "if it doesn't make the people around you happy. And you just reminded me of that." Ephraim sat quietly, his little hands resting on his lap, his eyes watching the tall buildings and busy roads fly past the window. Megan's heart swelled as she drove. She had never thought deeply about anything outside of her work. She had worked hard, built businesses, and made a name for herself. But the boy sitting beside her had stirred something deep within her. He reminded her why she began that journey, to rise above poverty, and to help others rise too. She had grown up with struggles, with pain, with nights that felt endless. She had told herself long ago that when she succeeded, she would help the poor. But life got busy, and she forgot that promise. Until now. Until Ephraim. Now, she was going to remember. She was going to help. Not just Ephraim, but as many children as she could. And that decision filled her with more peace than all the success she had ever known. What do you think about this story? Drop your views in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed this story. Until we bring another story your way, bye for now.